Thanks everyone for joining us today for this discussion on how brands can utilize data to drive loyalty with the customers. And as a part of this discussion today, we'll try to understand basically a lot of leading consumer brands, given they have been working for multiple years, amassed a lot of data, how can they really utilize it and ensure a personalized experience for their end consumer, ensuring that their privacy is kept intact. So we'll start with Sumanta to maybe share some thoughts on how you at Gameskraft are really leveraging data to drive consumer loyalty.
Thank you so much for giving the first question. So basically data is at multiple layers. So data is created by actions that the players take on our system. So how we look at data is try and map that to a behavior. You can see a pattern being followed, but unless and until you understand what is driving that data, you're not able to drive any insights out of it. So basically we saw a path to conversion, and we figured out there were 10 different paths to conversion. But why were people taking so many different paths? When we analyzed, we figured out some people were confident enough of their skills, they would go directly play a game. Some people wanted to explore the product, some people wanted to check out our payment system, some people had a different intent. So basically we had to cohortize all those people into say, these are the people who are sure about themselves, these are the people who are not sure about your platform, these are the people who are not sure how it is played. So basically we had we had to break them down, and they are new into the system. The more they are into the system, the more data you have about them, the more capabilities you have about predicting and so on and so forth. But when they are just new into the system, you have very few data points. So making those data points and making them fit into those buckets is very, very important. Otherwise, if you are misfitting them in any other bucket, most probably you lose them forever. So in e-commerce, there is cart abandon. In game, there is platform abandon. There is nothing called a cart abandon. Cart nahi abandon hote hain, platform abandon ho jate hain ek baar mein. So basically, we have to be that much more careful when we look at that, because people are here for entertainment. They are not hungry, they don't want clothes, they're nothing. So I have some time, I want to pass it. So I am a time pass option, fighting with TV and OTTs for their share of time. Yeah. So I have to give them the best experience at the least moment of time. So that is how the predictive analytics, the behavior pattern, the data that comes into the picture, how we capitalize it in and best possible entertainment at the given time possible. So that's how we look at it.
Got it. Any thoughts from you, Mayank, on this point?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the question. Taking a step back, I would like to discuss primarily first on what do we mean by customer loyalty, because for every business and product offering, it can mean very different things. So I'll start with an example. You have to first start with questioning who is your loyal user, right? I mean, in terms of your natural frequency of occurring the problem that the user is facing in their lives. For example, social media, a typical loyal user would be someone who comes on the platform multiple times a day. But for a banking app, that would mean once a month, right? So for us, it's slightly more complicated at Shati. We would want the users to come back, a loyal, a power user or a core user, how would we want to identify them as, multiple times, but it's a very life cycle based decision. You come on the platform when there is a need, and you want to exit the platform also as soon as possible. So our loyalties have to be very time bound, and we have to ensure that in the right moment, we are able to bring the customers back as much as possible. And that is why our core strategy is to identify the intent right at the start of the activation, give them what they want. So you would typically have, let's say, a user who initially would come to the platform with very high aspirations, right? You are aspirational, you're looking for a matchmaking, and you would want to punch up from where you are in your, but let's say you don't get any engagement back, you don't get any responses. You would either lose platform, as you said, yeah, we also lose platform, right? No cart appointment. Because again, we come from an industry where there are 2-3 very established players, and we know that at least at an activation level, the user would, more than 50% of our users are typically on more than one platform beyond us. So but they would pay only on one platform, typically. So that is the insight that we core drive, and that is why we focus very strongly on what we show them in the first week. So if we are able to retain user and get them to make that first payment, which is our, like again, we know the differentiator from the benchmark in the industry. If we're able to make that first payment in the first week, we know that we have that user at least for the next 6 weeks, and we are able to drive that experience. That is how we look at our cohorts, and we want to life cycle management. And that's why it is very important for us to look at the data in terms of conversions.
That's an interesting point, and given it's part of that truly a life cycle event, I believe, of course, there is a different take on it. Coming to Shitiz, I think you're part of an industry which is a very, very core business, and customers, of course, would not say book it for entertainment or say for maybe doing a matchmaking kind of a thing, but there is a need. Now, how do you ensure that you're really looking into this data wherein, of course, it's a competitive industry and you're driving that repeat and making people stick with it?
No, absolutely. Like you mentioned that, the definition of loyalty would probably vary from industry to industry, right? And if you look at it at a meta level, does loyalty even exist, right? मतलब जितना बढ़िया डिस्काउंट मुझे वहाँ मिलेगा तो मैं वहाँ चला जाऊँगा या राइट दिस प्लेटफॉर्म इज ओनली एज गुड अंटिल दैट वन इज नॉट वर्किंग और समथिंग लाइक दैट राइट सो जस्ट जोक्स अपार्ट बट वी कम फ्रॉम ट्रैवल राइट एंड ट्रैवल इज नॉट एन FMCG राइट लोग रोज़ तो ट्रैवल कर नहीं रहे हैं है ना तो साल में 2 से 3 ट्रिप्स मैक्स हो जाएंगे सो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू सी द सोर्स वेयर दे कमिंग फ्रॉम then map their behavioral data and then the transactional data. So these are two basically major data points that we deep dive into to understand how exactly users are, basically following through the entire funnel. And also, it's not just about the data at a transactional level on the typical, D2C channels. It's also on how they are interacting with us on our other channels as well. I'll give you a very small example. So we have a solid ears to the ground when it comes to ORM. What people are writing about your brand on your app or on other platforms, or let's say on your social media, says a lot about how closely people associate associate the brand with the perception they have of the category, right? And that's a very good indicator of where exactly your marketing or your operational efficiency is going in which direction. There's one observation that we did, so when you deep dive into a GSC console data, you will see what exactly people are searching for and they're landing on your website and stuff. There's one common, usually not deep dive into theme of content, which is helpful content, right? When we make cohorts in the sense कि मैं इसको target कर लूँगा, है ना? ये mindset है कि मैं इसको target कर लूँगा. Target is generally have a sense of promotional nature in it, right? But what I have observed and I've seen the biggest brands have loyalty when they try to help the customer, not just try to shove coupon codes in their faces, right? And that's precisely where the foundation of loyalty lies. If I'm trying to help the customer at any stage when they're landing on my platform, the foundations of loyalty are done, right? That's one thing that we pay really, massive attention to. Coming to my anecdotal data about the GSC, we saw a lot of people are searching how to become a pilot, right? Obviously, there are certain nitty-gritties attached to it, but actually, when you come to the technicality of people don't know कि मैं pilot कैसे बनूँगा. We created an entire series out of it. It's there on YouTube. It's called License to Fly. And you won't believe the amount of engagement that we got from people are the ones who actually saw value in that content. People cleared their junior flying officer exams by looking at that series. So that's kind of a validation, when you are listening to the customers, the way they expect it from you, then probably, loyalty comes into the picture. Talking about the transactional route, of course, we have various cohorts. We deep dive into even the clicker level data to the time level data, right? For example, someone might have a propensity to probably convert better on a Wednesday than a Tuesday, right? मतलब इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि Wednesday को flight book करो. I'm just anecdotal data दे रहा हूँ, right? So that level of information you need to deep dive into so that you understand where exactly your so-called brand loyalty lies. And it's a little, there's kind of a dissonance when I speak that for our category because we are category leaders, there are not too many players, right? And so loyalty kind of becomes a misnomer of sorts if you see it from a meta level. But still, you got to do what you got to do. So data at a transactional level plus behavioral level has to be mapped across the channels, not just your website or app where the transaction is happening. I think that's my input on this.
What's your take on this, Manish? Given your business, of course, is deeply rooted across different channels, very offline heavy, as well as now available across digital platforms. So any different opinion or observations you have?
So again, it comes to the buzzword like omni-channel and phygital and all that, whichever way. But a brand having multiple presence or multiple access points has to be consistent across touch points. There may be nuances for brands where you want to have a different experience across different touch points. But as far as possible, you have to be consistent across channels, and then again look at patterns, behaviors. Like for in our category, in delivery, food delivery, right? Many a times the occasions could be singular, right? But dine-in mostly larger group occasions. So right, then you have to personalize as per channel needs. When you know that most of the dine-in occasions are for celebrations, hanging out with friends, then a larger set of groups are coming in. So how does the table seating structure is, whether it's catering to those kind of group needs or not. While for delivery, you know that many a times it could be singular meal occasions, late night occasions, people working out from office late night and then ordering in. So then you need to have the right combos, right kind of offerings, and how do you show it during different day parts. Those kind of personalization. Even if I, let's say, take the customer angle out, even at a day part level, if you can do those personalizations as per day, right, relevant offerings being shown, then customer has lesser touch points or lesser friction points to go through multiple pages to find out the relevant deals, relevant product offerings for that user. So I think it's from different lenses you will have to look at and find to reduce the consumer friction. And like Shitiz mentioned, that it is not always about showing in or throwing in coupons, offers, right? And many times the key objective of loyalty is a higher and retained engagement can be done through content also.
Makes sense. Any thoughts from you, Karishma? Any anecdotes that you have observed in Zepto's context specifically about this?
Honestly, I feel that building loyal customers depends on brands to just get some of their basics right, in terms of probably offering quality products and services, or having a very strong customer support system, probably, like hearing your customer out and acting upon it, and building a very strong loyalty program, right? Like, of course, like how Shitiz mentioned that not necessarily where are loyal customers these days, right? But for Zepto, the case is a little different. We thrive on loyalty. Our entire business model is based on customer loyalty. We recently launched Zepto Pass. Most of you guys would have heard. I think within 2 months, we've got around 4 million plus subscribers. That's proof enough to show how loyal the customers are, right? One of the primary reasons for launching this loyalty program was also because we wanted to reward our customers, right? Unlike other platforms, like they said, like probably once in a month the customers come and purchase. In Zepto, the average purchase time is probably once or twice in a week. People are coming week on week again, and it's more like a habit-forming business which Zepto has created today, right? And hence it's at utmost importance that we kind of reward our loyal customers. While, these are some of the basic things you do to get your loyal customers, one very important thing is how are you engaging with these customers and how personalized are your experiences, right? In Zepto, we take personalization very, very seriously. And when I say this, it's not just within the app, but it's also outside of the app in terms of how we've built a very robust CRM, right? What do I mean by personalization? It's your basics, right? In terms of studying the customer behavior, studying their buying patterns, understanding their preferences, and then of course engaging in a more personalized manner. Like, I'll just give some layman examples in terms of, say, like Gaurav probably buys eggs every 5 days and Shitiz probably buys eggs every 15 days, right? I'll probably remind him within 5 days to replenish his eggs, and probably him within 15 days to replenish his eggs, right? So can you see, like, it's like, when your mom reminds you to do something at the right time and a brand is also talking to you in a similar way, it kind of adds that personal touch. Like, another example could be, we've noticed that Gaurav purchases this one particular cold drink quite often, right? And say today it's gone on an additional 20% discount. I'm definitely going to target Gaurav, informing him ki, hey, your favorite brand has today gone on a discount, why don't you purchase? Again, it's like a personal touch which you added to it because the brand has now remembered what your favorite thing is, and we've kind of customized an offer for you and we've remembered you, right? So more the personalized experience you create for the brand, more loyal your customers are going to be, and that's what Zepto as a brand is honestly thriving on.
Got it. Interesting points to drive that repeat business. Nishant, given you come from the securities side of the domain, how do you ensure maybe taking these insights to keep things simple and ensure the loyalty part is maintained in your customer base?
So securities business is a very highly regulated business, and unfortunately, like most of the brands are able to offer discounts, rewards, etc. I unfortunately cannot do anything. So becomes very difficult, very challenging. So hardcore, I don't believe in the concept of loyalty per se. So I'll just give you, if you look at any data and if you try to find out how many percentage of loyal customers you have, you will always find that it is equal to the proportion of the market share that the brand has. It's a simple law. It is something which most marketers are not able to understand. This is something that you need to live with. Currently, I am on NSE active list. I am the 6th largest broker. Whatever is my market share on that is going to be the brand loyalty market share as well. How do you improve that? That is the key challenge that most of us face. What has happened in the past a couple of years is the emergence of tools and analytics to get your first party data within the app. Any web interaction, any app interaction at various touch points, we are now able to monitor that. And by breaking it down as per the customer life cycle, so you acquire, then you activate, then you engage, then you try to cross-sell, and if the customer is not engaging, then there is a reactivation module, and you keep trying to play around over here to get the customers to come back and transact with you. What happens now is that we are able to devise funnels across each and every touch point to identify where the drop-offs are happening. Something like activation. For securities, it would mean that getting the guy to do the first trade. So what is the path to that first trade? How many logins are happening? When they log in, what are they doing in the app? Did they add funds? Did they not add funds? Did they browse for a particular stock? And then did they make a purchase? And if they did not make a purchase, how do I go and target them back without any offer per se? So it becomes a continuous testing ground. You have to continuously keep track of where the users are going and how it is flowing through. And not just about marketing campaigns. So when you look at the path, it is also about the UI, UX, and the ease that you have given to the customer. So I know we are still using NPS, and even we use NPS as a basis to understand loyalty. But if you are able to identify what is the effort that the customer goes through in accessing any of your services, any of your features, that decides your loyalty. So the customer effort score is where the brands need to now start focusing. The key question that they should be asking is, how easy have I made for the customer to do XYZ? That's where, is the foundational point of generating more repeat behaviors. So yeah, that's my take on this, sorry.
Gaurav, I'd like to add something to what Nishant said. Sure. Like, beautifully said that, the actual customer actions should be your so-called metric to gauge whether a user is a loyal user or not, right? So, of course, every brand will have a different definition of what's a loyal user. These number of events fired or these number of transactions done or stuff like that. So, why I'm pointing it out is because I'll give a very, a relatable example, my personal example. So, I'm a huge fan of BlueSmart. The consistency is phenomenal. I've been using them for the last 2 years religiously, right? They came up with the new plan called Blue Elite, similar to Zepto Pass, right? And I bought a plan for 3 months. So basically, the benefit versus the cost perception that the plan had, the reality did not match that, right? So I decided to give it up after 3 months. Does that mean I'm not a loyal user? Not necessarily, right? So it's very important for us to decide what exactly is the loyalty definition for my brand or my category. I'm still a loyal user of, BlueSmart. Loyal user, see, I use that word, right? मैं अभी भी वो use कर रहा हूँ, but Blue Elite नहीं ले रहा हूँ, इसका मतलब ये नहीं है मैं Blue loyal user नहीं हूँ, right? So getting our own understanding कि how do I define कि ये मेरा loyal user है, that's I think something to think about.
Makes sense. Any thoughts, Sumanta? I think on the point, one of the points that Nishant said about basically leveraging first-party data and relying on that in a cookieless world, how do you go about, say, achieving success for your brands, given of course you are in the entertainment category, you would want to know about that user beyond what they are doing maybe on your platform. So how do you kind of maintain that balance?
Yeah, so we came down to the most discussed topic, zero party data, first party data. I don't know how many parties of data have come through. मतलब fourth तक तो सुना हुआ है, आगे का नहीं पता. Fourth कौन है मुझे खुद नहीं पता, सुना मैंने किसी को बोलते. But yeah, so getting down to the best source of data is your own customer or a player data that is there. So that's what we are ये कुकीलेस वर्ल्ड वाला भी थोड़ा मिथ बस्टिंग कर देते हैं यार, बहुत ही ये कुकी चल रहा है, कुकी को कट करते हैं यार. सो बेसिकली कुकीज ऑलरेडी एज थिंग ऑफ द पास्ट. वेब बेस्ड बिजनेसेस में कुकीज होते हैं, ऐप की कोई कुकीज नहीं होती, पता नहीं क्या कुकी लगा रखा है. सो दैट इज गॉन यार. तो कुकीज इज नॉट द यू आर एट अ कोहॉर्टाइज्ड लेवल. लुक एट द लेवल ऑफ डेटा दैट पीपल आर गेटिंग. दिस माइट स्केयर फ्यू पीपल. सो बेसिकली व्हेन you transact on a card network, right? When those card network providers are providing you data at aggregator, मुझे नहीं पता गौरव जाके सरसों का तेल खरीद रहा है कि गेहूं खरीद रहा है. I have no clue, but I know that Gaurav shops. ठीक है, this is from at a transaction level data. How deep do you need to go? So if somebody is asking, shopping at a baby store, and if I ask the payment players, give me a cohort of people who have been shopping at a baby store, they are more than happy to give it to you. Definitely not in naam ye lo pakdo, ye address, ye phone number. You will not get that data, for sure. But basically, what you need to do is, we have a data that these are the people who have been buying stuff for babies. It's pretty easy for you to target, go behind them. You have those interest categories, all those things, and I leave everything alone. You are transacting because if I have no need, I am 40 years old, I am not going to buy diapers, right? For no reason at all. So basically, if I have to target a particular segment, there is one interest, I might, somebody might have a 18-year-old might have an interest in, buying a Mercedes, but very rare chance that 18-year-old has enough finances to buy that Mercedes. So going back that kind of data, ये cookie वाला data वही करता है. It will say कि 18-year-old है, Mercedes खरीदेगा, ये Mercedes पड़ी हुई है उसके पीछे, कि तू खरीद. But that is not going to happen unless and until you have enough data to say कि you have that transacting power to it. Just because a 20-year-old has been browsing Mercedes size, BMW size, any luxury car, it doesn't mean that he'll buy that. So basically, you have to be sensitive about that data. And getting back to how you manage it, you have the first-party data. You know how the people are behaving. Any kind of business, be it a securities business, be it a retail business. So you need to reach out to the transactors. One is the interesting segment. People are interested. I have a lot of interest in a lot of things that I don't buy, neither do. So, just for understanding sake, for fun's sake, I do it. And I am bombarded with ads from all over Instagram, Facebook, and said, "Aa gaya phir se cookie." So basically, when you do that, so that is one. Now that is like bad data. You don't go behind that. You have other aggregators of data. You have telcos which give you aggregated data. You have payment networks which give you aggregate data. You can also still have a data set which app has been on the foreground for how much time. So basically that might come scary. It doesn't give you your name, address, phone number, sab milta hai, but at a cohort level you be a part of that cohort, right? If there is something running in the background, doesn't mean, there has been a game which has been there and running in the background for 3 hours, it doesn't matter, right? Are you an active gamer or not? So you have an app that has been there in the phone since ages and you haven't launched it ever? I don't care.
Yeah.
So basically you have to look at the real data that matters for you in the outer ecosystem and map it with the data that you have in the system. Then you why do you need the data is to expand your market, right? Who are the people, who are the next set of buyers or customers? You build them and then you seep in that element, loyalty element. Because gaming thrives on loyalty, because all the revenue that gaming company makes from loyalty, if I am just, abandoning a game at level 1, how many ads, how many things will you make me buy? How many ads can you serve me? But if I have a level 144, I have given you enough and more opportunity to recover the acquisition cost that I have paid. You have paid to get me. Yeah. So basically, the more accurately I can map you to the outer world, the better I have. Cookie से ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं पड़ता होगा. Cookie हो गया, खत्म. It is already done, dusted. It's now time for aggregated data, how you match that, and what technology stack you use, and how accurately can you map it. I'm not sure about legal क्या बोलेगा for the banking and the securities. So. So for us, it is technically pretty easy. We are a tech company, we understand this technology. So, that is something we have already done. And वो cookieless वाला तो हो गया हमारे लिए, वो 10-5 साल पुरानी बात है. But yeah, it keeps coming on. I thought, let's do a bit of myth busting. It is all done and dusted. If you are only a site, you have website only business, then not having a cookie may scare you somewhere. But if you are not a website only business, cookies have cookie नहीं होगा, data नहीं होगा, data तो है यार. Data is there, some form or the other, anonymize कर लो, 3 महीने के बाद delete करा दो, data privacy laws हैं, but they still have the data and still you have to know how to leverage it. That's it. So there's nothing that cookieless world is going to turn world upside down. It's not going to happen. So that is what I would like to add.
Got it. I think interesting take, and I think help clarify a lot of things which
I hope I didn't scare anyone.
Any thoughts from you, Manish, around this point on how do you maybe leverage first party data well as are you also beyond your customers' data, do look into the aggregated data side of the thing?
No, I think I'm 100% with what Sumanta said. So similar strategy, right? You have the first party data, like in our category, right? Restaurant, we have just the mobile number. We just don't even know whether it is a male, female, what age, what persona, nothing about the user. We just know 9899XYZ ordered this pizza or this sides or this was the behavior, this day, this mid of the week, weekend. So at a transaction level, you can cohort them, segmentize into those kind of users, weekend bingers, midweek cravings, and you can build those kind of personas, late lunch, late dinner, so possibly office, possibly ordered from a corporate area, corporate hub. So we map from, let's say, Nielsen data and those data points from trade zones, what we call. So a restaurant will handle, let's say, 5 kilometer radius, for example, right? So based on that, what is that persona or a geographical profile of that particular 5 kilometer radius, right? So based on that, then you can map basically, possibly hypothesize this is my audience, right? But then you can never get to know, was it a male, female, XYZ, what age, or maybe I ordered for my kid, or whichever ways. So then you have to rely on these third party services, right? Which data aggregation part Sumanta talked about. Then you'll have to go out, and obviously you will not get mapping against, oh, this user into this. So maybe you will segment your data. You will say, okay, these are my high frequency purchasers, these are my low frequency purchasers, give it to some data aggregation company in anonymized format and get them some cohortization from that, and they will say, okay, this cohort of users is high spenders, they also go every week movies, they also do this, they also do this, and oh, these low frequency users who come to you very less frequently, oh, they are not very active digital shoppers. So you have built a persona for your audience. Now, how do you go after them? How do you chase them on different media affinity, media targeting, media segmentation is your job. But once they are in, and then what is your tech stack? How do you kind of connect these multiple data points, and how much in real time you can do things is a journey we are also on. I'm not saying that we are completely on, and it's a longest journey for us to do that thing, but in today's days, with so many of these services available, I think it's an easy job, but you need to be very clear about your objective, what you intend to achieve, right? And I'll also share one example from my previous organizations, where there was no sense about even knowing what the user was. It's a distribution business. I was with mobile phone companies, Indian challenger brands like Spice Mobile and Carbon Mobile. You would have heard these names long back, right? We had no connection with the user. Our first connect was our primary distributors, and we would never get to know who bought our phones, right? So for us, the primary audience was dealers. We had to make our dealers happy. So our loyalty programs then was customized for a distribution channel. How do we, and for those small time retailers like Sunny Mobile Gallery in one shop, in one area, he would get privileged when we'll give him a certificate. He puts it as I'm the top performer in his region, right? That was his motivation, that anybody walks into my store, he'll say, oh, this particular organization has given me honor, right? So it was beyond monetary. So you have to find your audience, whichever is your primary audience, which you can have a direct access to. What are his motivators? What are his barriers? And then you try to solve for them. So I think each category have a different play. You have to find your own path.
Nishant, any thoughts you would have on this topic?
So fortunately for financial services, this is not a problem. Because of regulatory reasons, the customers need to give me a lot of data. So I know a lot of things about customers when they open an account with us. I'm not trying to scare you guys. This is as per the regulatory requirements for AML, etc. So that part is clear to us, and it becomes easy now to track the users. Making a cohort is very easy for us. Breaking down into nth level of segment is very easy for us. What we were lacking was the advent of tools which could help you, get those interaction data. Once you start getting this interaction data and you marry it to the customer demog profile that you have put in another system, and then you start seeing the business outcomes, you start seeing some very interesting patterns emerging. So the purchase behavior into demographics, into engagement behavior, help you identify what segments you should go after. As the rightly said, someone in the panel rightly said, don't create a segment basis what you want to target. What happens is you need to look at how the users are behaving on the app, on the first party or your own data. Look at how they are behaving, and basis that then you decide how the interventions will go. Typical things that work very easily for us and probably for any other brand also. Creating an RF segment, for example, it's the easiest and the best tool. It's one of the highest predictors of repeat behavior. So doing a recency frequency is the easiest thing that a growth marketer can do to identify. The other segmentation could be look at the frequency of transactions and look at power users, core users, casual users. Again, it's a very strong predictor of repeat behavior. What needs to happen after this is also very interesting. So you have a lot of data coming in. You can see the patterns. But the biggest disconnect that happens is that there is no context available. You do not know where the user is operating, how is he operating. You can just see what is he doing or interacting with your app. The trouble with this whole thing is the human element gets missed out significantly. Recently we have started experimenting with how behavioral science can help us understand user behavior. So, there's a data which is available on transactions, but you also need to go on the streets, go on the field, get some user insights from there, and then marry it back to your cohorts. That is one of the elements which I have seen missing in most of the places. But this is the place where you get the causal answer to the loyalty that you're trying to build. So contextual targeting married with behavioral data will give you the right way to target these customers. So yeah, that's.
Nishant, you have triggered a question in me. So basically, so when you have all that data, so when you try to map that data to the external world data, you're pumping that data into CDP or a DMP. So can you do that as a, as a very closely governed?
I don't do that. Sorry.
You can. You're not allowed to do that, I think.
No, I don't even. So see, it's very difficult to use the current data to identify users in the outside world. Currently, what you do and everybody does is there's a concept called as deep funnel optimization, wherein I go to the nth level of activity that the user has done, which gives highest business impact. I take that data, I hash it in whatever form it needs to be, give it to Google, give it to Facebook. Then they identify similar audiences for us. That is the standard way that this model works. I don't know. I don't find it to be a great way to do it, but unfortunately, we are at the mercy of Google and Facebook right now. So, but yeah, that is all I can do. Beyond that, it's not easy, and I don't even intend to do that.
Okay, great point. I think after understanding, of course, how are brands looking at driving loyalty, how you're handling data to enable those experiences, coming to one of the important points and last point is, how do you really leverage some of these insights to drive maybe personalized experiences, and how it's all the more crucial where, say, different consumers are looking at it from a privacy and data protection angle. So any thoughts from you, Karishma, on that?
Data-driven insights, honestly, is very crucial for any brand today, right? Especially if you want to deliver any kind of value to the customer, or if you want to kind of engage with the customers in a personalized way, right? Of course, brands have to be very mindful in terms of how they are using the data, be more responsible, be more transparent in terms of how they are using the data. Like, yes, customer privacy is of utmost importance. But that being said, today no brand can function without having data-driven approach towards the engagement which they do with their users, right? So simple reason being, it'll helps you build more relevance and more personalized experience when you're sending communications to the users, right? Like I gave you an example earlier, understanding what the customer wants in terms of preferences, when he wants to buy, and probably sending him a reminder at the right time, right? Another important thing by having data-driven approach is you can probably improve the effectiveness and efficiency of your campaigns. Sending the right communication at the right time to the right user, it'll only help you better your conversions. And let's face it, end goal of any brand today is to get better order conversions, right? A very different use case which I would like to share, like of course we've spoken about price drops, cart abandonment and all of these use cases. Zepto has a very unique use case which we look at from a data-driven perspective. Every hour we need to understand, every hour, every day we need to understand how our stores are doing currently, right? Every store currently has certain number of orders which they can cater to. So there will be situations where, you know, in certain hour there is, say, X number of stores who have more demand but less supply. But at this, and you know, the extremely stressed out stores, right? And at the same time, there will be some stores where the supply is really high, but demand is quite low, so you can cater to more orders. So what do you do in such kind of a situation, right? So looking at all of these data, we've built like a demand shaping module wherein we try to boost orders in stores, you know, who are kind of not stressed at the moment and have the capability to deliver more. And at the same time, we also kind of try to curb orders in stores, you know, who we know don't have the potential to deliver anymore, like they're already quite stressed, right? And of course, there are multiple actions. Looking at this data, we do multiple actions within the app in terms of charging receivables, etc. But also outside of the app in terms of when should I send the communication. If it's stressed, don't send, right? If it is not stressed, then I send it at the right time, like this is the time I should be sending a notification. So yeah, I mean, every business will have different use cases in terms of how they can use most of this data. And at the end of the day, any data-driven insights is only going to give you a competitive edge. It's going to get you a more loyal customer. And of course, a great user experience as well, because, I mean, imagine a brand constantly remembering you or speaking to you or telling you what you exactly want to hear, right? So yeah, I think it's an important element.
Any thoughts from you, Mayank, on this point?
Yeah, I would like to start off with what Nishant said, that there is an incentive for users to give a lot of data for regulatory reasons. For us, it is slightly of the higher order. They have to give us a lot of data because for their personal reasons. They're looking out for a match in the real world, and they would want us to provide the perfect match for them. And for that, they need to tell us what they want and who they are. So for us, probably sitting here, there are a lot of platforms who are selling a lot of products. For us, what we are showing the users are our users. So our products are users at the end of the day. And our problem is not less data. Our problem is actually the reverse. We have a lot of data. How do you cut out on the noise? Because if we try to fit any metric with any variable, there is a strong correlation. We have always found that. But how do you identify causation? Our funnels are very predictable. We know that if a user has been activated, because there is so much data that they have provided, there is so much inertia into building out that profile and then maintaining that profile, we know that there is a high intent. And then once you have started looking at profiles, once you have started interacting with the platform after so much of inputs, you would expect personalization. Now, as on my first point, I had said that you start off with a life cycle also, right? Now you want the platform to show you what you want, and your preferences are very tight, and you expect the platform to get it right on every profile, because users are very sensitive in terms of what data they have provided, and they are very aware also right now. They know कि भाई मैंने इतना सब कुछ बता दिया है प्लेटफॉर्म को कि मुझे ये चाहिए, मुझे ये चाहिए, मुझे ये चाहिए, और मैं ये हूँ, उसके बाद मेरे को एक प्रोफाइल भी गलत नहीं आनी चाहिए, क्योंकि अब तो सब कुछ बता दिया. अब अगर then they start questioning the platform itself. हमारे end पे ये problem आता है कि भाई एक भी profile अलग क्यों आ रहा है? That is the question. So for us, it is extremely critical that we identify the user at a very personal level कि इसको क्या चाहिए प्लेटफॉर्म से. शुरुआत में वो आया है, अगर एक मैं टिपिकल अपना पावर यूज़र की बात करूं, तो उसको शायद बेस्ट पर्सन चाहिए, उसको वो दिखेगा एंड दे विल ट्राई एंड रीच आउट टू देम इररिस्पेक्टिव ऑफ द फैक्ट कि उसको कनेक्ट पे रिस्पॉन्स आएगा या नहीं आएगा. लेकिन ओवर टाइम उसका ये बिहेवियर बहुत ज़्यादा चेंज हो जाएगा. ओवर टाइम ही वुड बी लाइक कि यार रिस्पॉन्स तो आ ही नहीं रहा, सो व्हाट इज द प्लेटफॉर्म डूइंग. तो वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड एट नॉट जस्ट एट अ पर्सन लेवल बट देयर टाइम ऑन द प्लेटफॉर्म कि कहाँ पर क्या दिखाना है. एंड फॉर दैट वी हैव बिल्ट आउट वेरी प्रिडिक्टेबल फनल्स. हमें पता है कि क्या लीडिंग इंडिकेटर है. यू स्टार्ट ऑफ विद दैट एंड यू ट्रैक दैट एट एन आर्ली लेवल इन एग्रीगेट्स ऑल्सो और एट पर्सनल लेवल ऑल्सो. जीरो और फर्स्ट पार्टी डेटा अपने पास बहुत है, तो हमें पता होता है कि ये लीडिंग इंडिकेटर पे अगर बंदे ने ये पाथ को क्रॉस किया ना तो यहाँ पर फाइनली निकलेगा ही निकलेगा. तो हम ये करते हैं, हम स्टार्ट में आइडेंटिफाई कर लेते हैं, बकेट कर लेते हैं इस यूज़र को कि ये यूज़र को हायर सिलेक्शन रेशियो, बेसिकली द प्रोफाइल्स जो वो देख रहा है उनको कनेक्ट रीच आउट करेगा, या इस बंदे को हायर एक्सेप्ट रेशियो, हायर रिस्पॉन्सेज चाहिए. एंड बेसिस दैट वी टेलर द रिकमेंडेशन एल्गोरिथम. सो फॉर अस दैट इज स्लाइटली डिफरेंट.
Got it. Any concluding thoughts from you, Shitiz, on this point?
यार इतनी शक्ति हमें देना डेटा. That's what every marketer says every morning. I think we need to be very sure as marketeers कि उस डेटा का करना क्या है, right? Whether I want to send this cohort a coupon code, whether I want them to land on my SEO page and drive my traffic, or नहीं है भाई. So basically you have to be very sure कि आप करना क्या चाहते हो डेटा के साथ. See, marketeers एक तो run on FOMO. I say this everywhere, right? They run on FOMO and sometimes they want to do campaigns out of pure vanity, right? But please keep the vanity aside. Be very sure why you are doing, running a campaign or let's say communication with a certain set of data or after understanding your behavior. Simple example, let's say you are a D2C brand. You ran a sale last year. It did phenomenally well. You populated that audience in GA. You have your own channel data. Some of the users interacted with the campaign. And you realize that most of them are coming from MWeb. इस साल जब मैं कैंपेन करूँगा तो मैं थोड़ा वोक हो गया हूँ एज अ मार्केटियर. मैं वन लिंक यूज़ करूँगा, मैं चाहता हूँ मेरी ऐप पे आए. दैट्स माई वैनिटी. प्लीज़ डोंट डू दैट, राइट? There is a reason the user behavior is trying to tell you something. So stick to the basics. That's one. Be absolutely clear why you are doing, a follow-up action, or you expect the user to take an action basis the user behavior, right? That's one. Number two, I think we have seen that having ears to the ground really helps. I'll give you two examples. When the international travel ban was lifted off, that time there was phenomenal data searches around international travel guidelines and all of that. So we observed a brilliant thing that time. Our UAE visa guidelines page was ranking above UAE government's page. Like, imagine, right? An Indian airline ranking above दूसरे देश का page, right? And massive impressions, and that continued. And when we tried to give communication, or we did awareness campaigns around these lines, we saw massive increase in our organic acquisitions as well, right? Our app broke into top 3 within 7 days, because all the touch points that we decided were to create awareness, were to help people, not tell them कि भाई कर लो ये सब book कर लो ये कर लो, not that, right? So how you understand data and how you are acting upon it, I think it's very critical. And plus, second example which I forgot to tell you is, please don't take moment marketing seriously, right? अब तुम फिनोलेक्स पाइप हो, तुम्हें डालगोना कॉफी का क्रिएटिव क्यों बनाना है यार? मतलब there's no there's no relation, right? So वो सब भी मत करो, because that kind of dilutes what you're trying to build, right? People will not take you seriously. You don't do frivolous stuff. Nike doesn't do frivolous stuff. That's why it's Nike, right? So just a few inputs from my end.
On that note, I just got an email from Uber saying, surprise your mom and take her out station this weekend. Please don't do this.
Cool. I think a very interesting set of remarks, observations, anecdotes from the panelists here. And I hope, I believe it was a great learning for me across, of course, the points that you have discussed. And I hope it was a fruitful session for all of you as well. Thank you so much, everyone.